Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to the DrunkFriend podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Travis. That's Alex. And finally, somebody on this podcast released a video. And it was me.
What's with that?
Yeah.
What's with that? What are you doing? What are you doing boarding? You're skateboarding over there?
Tony Hawking it. I'm Tony Hawking it. That's what they say.
Oh.
That's what all the kids are saying now. You know how relevant Tony Hawk still is, because you see kids out there skateboarding. I almost hit 3 skateboarders on my way to get my mail this morning, because every kid is skateboarding. And this is good, because Tony Hawk games are finally making a comeback. They're revamping that old series, which is good. I think that's great.
I love it. I think it's good. It looks really good, too. They are really doing a great job keeping the series consistent with what it used to be.
Yeah.
Based on what I can see, which is tremendous.
Yeah. Needs more Limp Bizkit. I'll say that about it. But other than... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no, that is cool. And, you know... It was I did a video about skateboarding games, not in the spirit of Tony Hawk. I planned so far ahead. I remember thinking back in July, I was like, in September, kids are going to school. And back in the day, I remember some kids would skateboard to school. So that was the only connection that I had to September and releasing a game or a video about skateboarding games, was that I one time saw a kid skateboard in September. So that video had Skate or Die 2, and 720. And Skate or Die 2 is maybe the weirdest story premise for a video game I have ever encountered.
Story premise?
There's
a story?
Yes. So it's not like Skate or Die 1. Skate or Die 1 is the collection of, basically mini games. Skate or Die 2 is like a full-on, and I say in the video, side-rolling platformer, because you're on a skateboard. And the game starts off, the whole premise is that you and your bros are out skateboarding, going around the mall, doing ollies, getting not Diet Coke, you wouldn't get a Diet Coke, getting a tab, drinking tab, and and spray painting a church. And as you're going down the street, the mayor's wife is out walking her poodle, as mayor's wives do. And you and your bros can't stop in time, and you squish her poodle. You kill it. This is in the game. This is a cutscene of the opening game. You kill her dog.
That's lovely.
Lovely. And she, naturally upset by this, convinces her husband to start an anti-skate ban. And you don't like this, so you and your guys have to get together. And the first mission is you just have to take her out. You just get her alone in a warehouse and throw stuff at her until she goes away. Yeah. So you basically
until she dies.
Assumedly, yeah. And then after that, you have to get like a building permit to build your own skate park in the town. Like that's the whole piece. You piece it all together. That's what you do. It's insane though, right? Like how many? That's such a killing a dog and then killing an old lady because she it's insane. It's an insane.
It sounds like some sort of like Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy horror movie hybrid kind of a thing. I don't even know how to describe that. That sounds ridiculous.
It's insane. Yeah.
It's Skate or Die 2, though.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Skate or Die 2. I think there's like a subtitle, like Skate or Die 2, like Trouble in something, or I don't remember. But the music's pretty cool. I'll give it that.
Trouble with Life is what it should be. Skate or Die, the first game, I really like still. I still enjoy playing that one every once in a while. I'm still good at that Joust game.
Dude, Joust.
Joust is fun. I do really like that one. The half pipe I was kind of good at.
Joust has no business being as addictive as it is, really, because it's very simple.
Fun. Yeah, it's real simple, and it's just back and forth. It feels like it should be like an American Gladiators kind of thing. Like, why didn't they just copy what this was? Because this is pretty cool. But yeah, and what were some of the other ones? There was an obstacle course.
Yeah, it was like a downhill race, and then there's another one where
downhill race.
You go down, or you go through some streets, and you got to beat up the other dude. It's kind of like a road rash version of skateboarding. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
I wanted to make the joke though that Skate or Die 2, if it does have a subtitle, it could be Trouble in Poodle Dice. Because the dog was murdered. Okay.
The dog was brutally murdered. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Very sad. But yeah, that was it. So I released that one. You're still on your hiatus, as they say. Still taking a break. So that's good.
Probably. No.
That's good. Good for you.
I just enjoy not thinking about any of that stuff for a while. Just want to play Fall Guys and Mario Sports Superstars. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, dude.
And maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll fire up my Madden 2008 season franchise.
Bring it back.
And where every single original player has since retired from the league.
Except for Frank Gore. Frank Gore is still there.
Oh, yes, exactly. Except for Frank Gore. Still going 3 yards a carry.
No matter what.
And he's played for all 32 teams. Or there's probably like 40 teams at this point.
Yeah.
It's no, I and I'm still playing Griffey baseball, of course.
Of course.
But I just, wanted to take a real break instead of a fake break where I am still actually doing all sorts of stuff and taking notes and all that sort of stuff. And
I think it's good.
Just want thank you. It's nice to hear that. Nice to hear the support. And I just, hope I can come back strong as ever.
Yeah. I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
You'll come back with your commentary parody video of you just commentating Mario sports games, and I cannot wait for it. I'm there for that.
You know what kind of part of it is, now that I think of it, is because I'm getting into kind of the dregs of the Super Nintendo lifespan, so to speak, with games like Scooby-Doo and Time Tracks and stuff like that. And it feels like there's a little more pressure to be entertaining because the game isn't entertaining at all.
Right.
The game is really boring. Like Scooby-Doo is a very slow game, and there's not a lot going on. And there's a bunch of games like that once you get to where I'm at, and it's like, yeah, that goes with the territory of when you reach the bitter end of a catalog's lifespan. But no, it's I'm still trying to find more stuff to be interesting, and it's just, it kind of takes a lot out of you when it's like, okay, the pressure's on you to make this interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that out the hard way. I think that's part of it. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you'll think of something, and time off will help you do that. So that's good.
Right on.
All right. Coming up next, we got some emails. Starting out here, we have one from Greg McScatty. It's a pretty sweet name. He says, hello, Mr. Drunk and Mr. Friend. That's very formal. You can just call us Alex and Trev. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I was wondering what 3 games you would take with you if you were sent to a desert island. Personally, I would cheat the system by taking a Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World Kart, Metal Gear Solid HD collection, and the Doom 3 BFG collection so that I could play both Doom 1 and 2. Keep up the good work, Greg. That is cheat the system, Greg, but that's smart. That's smart.
That's what you should do.
You should definitely cheat the system.
You'd be dumb not to do that. But if we're playing by the rules here, and you can only take one game, you can't cheat the system, and you can only take one game for each cartridge, so to speak, or for each CD or whatever. I think I'm going Chrono Trigger. I think I'm going Mega Man X. And I think I gotta go Super Mario World. I think those are my 3.
Those are your 3.
Yeah. What are your 3?
Whew. I gotta go with the Legend of Zelda, the OG. I think I haven't played the second quest. I mean, look, that's a whole new game I'm taking.
Oh, there you go. That'll keep you occupied out on this island that has no electricity.
That's right. Maybe a Star Tropics. Take Star Tropics out there with me.
Star Tropics? Really?
Yeah. Why not?
That game is hard as hell.
I've never beaten it. I have all the time on this.
You have all the time in the world to be frustrated by the BS in that game.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. You ship me out to that island right now? I'll do it right now.
I'm pretty stoked about it. And oh man, I don't know. Maybe a Castlevania 3. I don't know. I'm kind of winging it here, but that's another one that I've yet to actually beat. I've gotten pretty far, but I'm thinking, put me out on the desert island with some hard games I love. I'll eventually beat them.
That's one of those games I saw Hunger Garaya beat on her stream. Oh my god, the game is such garbage towards the end. And I don't mean garbage as in bad. I mean garbage as in just like,
knockback.
The knockback and just level design and all that stuff. And it's just like, screw this game. You just want to drop kick it into the sun.
Yeah.
And just forget it exists forever. And and you'd have plenty of time to.
I'd get there eventually.
You'd get there eventually.
We
got another email from Musty, our old friend Musty, aka Xboxer Briefs on YouTube.
That's right.
Go look that up right now.
Check
it's a
that
great
out.
channel for Xbox games, the original Xbox games. It says, "Hey, Alex and Travis. As both a content creator and a content consumer, I tend to see others out there who are very vocal about their creative process on social media, mainly Twitter. A few times a week, I'll see someone tweeting about their script writing or their struggles with script writing, talking about how much footage they have for a video, or how much time they've invested in editing this next one, venting about having to wait on a piece of technology that will streamline how they will do their videos, and overall teasing their next video, review, blog, post, etc., etc. This is all in addition to promoting the content once it has been released. I look at all this quote-unquote pre-release activity and wonder if I'm missing opportunities to increase engagement with my own content by not doing it." I get what he's saying here. It's a bit of a subtext here, folks.
Yeah.
Between the two of you, I rarely see you out there with this kind of messaging, so I'm intrigued to get your take on creators who do this, and or hear any advice you have on managing social media to help drive people toward your content. Looking forward toward your input. Wait a second. Looking forward to your input. Love your show. Love the show, rather. Thanks, Musty Joe, Xboxer Briefs. You want to take this one first?
Yeah, I will say all that was written correctly, and Alex just can't read.
It was written correctly, and I can't read.
No, I think this is actually an interesting question, because I think I'm actually in the same boat as Musty. I see this, and I'm like, should people do this? But I personally, I'm kind of put off when I see those things, and I don't know why that is. Like, it's weird. It's like it's like teasing your content, but that means that you think your content is worthy of teasing, if that makes any sense. And it's like, I don't feel that way about my content. I wouldn't like show like a piece of like a snippet of a piece of box art and be like, look what's coming up next, and expect people to be like, oh my god, he's doing the skateboarding games. I wouldn't expect that, and I don't know if that's why people do it. Like, maybe they think, maybe that's their fun way of being coy with their content, but like, I don't know that. To me, when I detect that people are doing that, I kind of am like, who do you think you are with all of this? But I get like people kind of venting about certain things, like, I just had, the worst experience with this piece of technology or whatever. Like, sometimes that makes for like just a good tweet. Just lost, this whole day. Now I'm going to go drink a beer and pass out in my garage. Like, that could be fun. But yeah, the whole way he coined pre-release activity and chronicling like every step of the process, like, just got 17 hours of footage on this. It's like, great. That's really awesome.
Pretty sweet, man. Good for you.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's bad to do that. I just, personally, it doesn't affect me at all regarding their content, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really care. It kind of reminds me of, like, do you see chefs, that are like, well, I went to the grocery store and boy, I went to the deli counter and boy, this guy was just a pain in the ass, and the meat wasn't sliced the width I wanted it to be, and it's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's another, I'm trying to make a labored analogy here, but
no, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
it's like, I don't, these are mundane details I don't care about. I'm sorry, but I'm sure they're important to you. They're not important to me. It doesn't mean they're important to a whole lot of other people. But that's how I see it. I see it as like, you're grocery shopping, you're putting in the work, and you're bitching about the work on a public forum. It doesn't entitle anybody else to give a shit. But,
it doesn't. And there's bigger things to complain about. But yeah, I don't think those types of things are. If your whole point is just to like have a way for people to engage you about your content, I don't think that's a good way to do it. Personally, is complaining about the process. You hit it right there. It's. I think some people see that as like, oh, I look at the amount of work I'm putting into this. That means that you should watch it 17 times once it's out because I put so much work. And it's like, no, I'll watch when I want, if it's interesting to me. Yeah. That's a big thing too. I see that a lot where people be like, dude, I spent 30 hours editing this and it's only gotten this many views. And it's YouTube's fault. And it's like, well, it could be that
it's the algorithm's fault.
Maybe it wasn't
the
that
algorithm
good.
Doesn't like me, and it's like
maybe, but it seems like also that a lot of people that watched it didn't like it either. Like that's
maybe
YouTube and those people aren't in it. The amount of work you put into something does not equate to quality. I mean, I could play guitar all day long. You're not going to like a second of it. So
yeah, there you go. There you go. It's you can. How to play guitar in 4 easy steps, and it's like, I'm gonna put this on YouTube. I think it's so good. I put so much work into it, and it's like, no, nobody cares. Too bad, so sad.
Yeah, it's true. And I want people to be better, and I'm all for people, reaching out through those means and be like, hey, I'm having trouble with the script. Does anyone have any ideas or anything like that? I mean, that's perfect. I personally wouldn't be able to contribute to their problem, but somebody might be able to. But that's better than complaining about it. Asking for help is a whole different thing. So anyway, that's a good question though, Musty. And I don't think you're missing anything by not doing it. But you kind of ask a second question, which we didn't touch on, which is like, what is a good way to manage your social media and let people, see your stuff better? And I'm personally not very good at that. When it publishes, I send a tweet, and I don't think there's a whole lot of interaction between the tweet and the video itself. I think it's awareness for people that already follow me and would get it anyway. But I think we're at the whim of YouTube to take care of a lot of it for us, unfortunately.
Well, what you got to do is you got to do drunk AMAs on Twitter at 5 a.m.
That helps.
No, don't do what I do because that's stupid. No, that's a tough question. When it comes to managing social media and driving people toward your content, using that to driving. I never saw it as a vehicle to drive people to my content. And that sounds hypocritical because I do link my stuff, but I see social media as me driving me content first and foremost. You know what I mean? Like if I've got like some snarky observation about like a bad referee call in an NFL game or in like a baseball game or something, that to me takes priority over some sort of like link that I'm going to send out. I guess if that makes any sort of sense. Like
no, it does. I think you're trying to sell people on your personality, and you also make videos that you link out.
It's me first and what I make second. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Yeah, because that's what it was. That's how Twitter started for me when I first got addicted to freaking Twitter when I was back in 2009 when I used it as like a chat room to bitch about the Minnesota Vikings when I first started, because I was like, oh my god, Cordell Patterson is a terrible wide receiver, we need to release him right now, and that meant the world to me to get like 3 likes on that.
yeah
And if I'm gonna send out like oh, by the way, here's something I made,
yeah, exactly,
so be it, that's fine.
Yeah, you hope that people are following you, and then they get all these other things, plus perhaps some insight into your channel. Yeah,
I feel like that's how it's supposed to work. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, we're all a little bit guilty of doing Twitter wrong at times, and everyone's still trying to figure it out. But I think that's the way to do it: is to be a person first and a content creator second.
I do Twitter wrong all the time, especially when I've been drinking too much.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up next, we have our very first guest from New Zealand.
Ooh.
New Zealand? What?
Wow.
Yeah, she's a bit of a departure from our usual gaming-related stuff. She's actually an art teacher, and she started her own YouTube channel within the last year or so, and she's been filming tutorials for the proper techniques on how to draw. It's really been interesting. I've really enjoyed watching her. She's kind of like making up her channel as she goes, and it's been fascinating to watch. I discovered her by complete serendipity, just browsing through YouTube one day, and I was completely entranced. I just loved everything I saw. So I just had to reach out to her, and she agreed to come on. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, you're in New Zealand, and there's like a 17-hour time difference between us.
Yeah.
And since especially I was a huge fan, I'm still a huge fan of Bob Ross. I was a huge fan growing up. I'm really inspired by her channel. And since my mom was an artist, I am always compelled to support talented artists anytime I can.
Right on.
That includes our friend, the Renaissance, that we had on a couple weeks ago. And that includes this gal coming on, Leila Ataya. I hope you like her.
Leila, thank you so much for joining us here. And as Alex alluded to in our pre-record, you're actually from the future to us. You're in Auckland, New Zealand. It is currently 1 p.m. there. It's actually 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. respectively here. So what is the future like? And again, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Oh, thank you so much, guys, for having me. Yes, well, for you, it's the future. For me, it's like you guys from the past. So it sort of goes both ways. It's a little bit strange. Yes, it's Sunday. It's 1 p.m., around 1 p.m. Yeah, and the weather is looking great here. And it's not just that we're sort of having a different day. We're also having a different season. So it's end of the winter for us. So we're going to be going into spring, like from next month.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't even think of that. So yeah,
I didn't either.
We're out here where we are, where Trav and I are. It's the end of summer, and we're, it's been one of the hottest summers for us. 100 degrees every day, and 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh,
wow. Which would be,
yeah.
I'm not even sure what that would be Celsius. I'm sorry, but
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
It's also a lot of Celsius. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Sounds very hot. Yeah.
It's very hot Celsius. Yeah. Take our word for it. But I didn't even think of that. That's interesting. But I just wanted to say I first found your channel, Leila, on an ASMR compilation on one of those channels. And I wanted to ask you, was the ASMR thing, did it end up being like a complete coincidence? Or is that something you set out to do from the start when you started a YouTube channel? And how did that work?
The whole thing was kind of, since I've started doing videos for YouTube, there was like a surprise after a surprise after a surprise. So many things I found out about myself that I just didn't, had no idea. No, I've never actually thought that I have a relaxing ASMR voice. That never even crossed my mind. I don't know if it's just the microphone that does it, or if it's, perhaps when I'm relaxed and when I'm drawing or painting or explaining things, it becomes more relaxing. But yeah, it has been a surprise for me. So I started to do these videos, and I wasn't posting anything regular, like maybe once every couple of months or something like this. And then I decided to do a tutorial where, because the videos that I would post before had sort of like a background music, and I would not talk there, and I was actually really shy because of my accent. I sort of felt that people are going to start to comment, like, learn the language properly before you film and stuff like this. But it was a completely sort of it was a very opposite reaction to what I was expecting.
Wow.
And so then, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So this whole thing has been kind of because that's how I found you initially. And then I found out that you're actually a teacher. And not only are you a teacher, you're an excellent teacher. And I haven't taken...
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. No, I haven't taken illustration classes since I was 19 years old. And you were kind of an inspiration for me to bust out my old marker. I've got markers, grayscale markers, and what are these? I've got them right over here actually. The old Prismacolor markers they're like super expensive, and they require that you buy them for your illustration classes and stuff like that. And your videos. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really happy that it's inspired you, because that's what, that's what I was hoping to get people, maybe back into doing something creative, because a lot of people, start to do things like doodling and things like that, say when they're in high school or, something like that. And then they just drop that altogether because, life takes hold and there's no time, and then they forget about it. But it's such a big thing, I think, for, even just if you think of us, because we're human beings, we need, an outlet where we can let this steam out without sort of without it happening in a more negative, maybe harsh way. So I think that's where the creativity really comes,
now
handy.
more than ever, especially now that we're all, I mean, us Americans, you New Zealanders got your stuff together, it seems like, when it comes to the coronavirus. But us in the States, we're we're a little we're slacking, I guess. But no, now more than ever.
We're still in the lockdown.
I'm sorry?
We're still in the lockdown.
Oh,
So.
yeah, but you had a brief period there where it was no cases, I think, for a brief amount of time. But your country's responsible enough to be like, hey, we should probably go back in the lockdown once we have cases. So
that's what's happened. Yeah, so there were a few cases, and it's mainly the Auckland that is on lockdown. The rest of New Zealand is on level 2, and it's because they found few cases that just and apparently it's just all one cluster, so they kind of have it all under control. And hopefully from tomorrow, Auckland is going on to level 2 as well. So if everything goes well, it's going to be a little bit more relaxed,
Yeah, good luck. Hopefully that works out.
Yeah, thanks. I hope so too.
That's one of my favorite videos of yours was one you released not too long ago, where it really was just you saying what you just said. Hey, we all have some sort of creative itch that we need to scratch every once in a while. And you were basically just putting yourself out there saying like, hey, here's how I can help you with that. And this is, I'll be honest with you, this is normally a gaming podcast and we talk video games and stuff like that. But I love what you're doing with your channel because, number one, I can see it grow from as an outsider's perspective, because I latched on from an early point. And number two is that you really care about the creative process and helping inspire people. And I'm all about that. I am all about that. And I love that you're passionate about that too. So I just wanted to say thank you for that video that you put out, because it was a big inspiration to see that. And I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, and it happens a lot. I think I do sort of talk about it in the video as well, where it's pretty much everywhere. I would see people who just, you can tell just by looking at them that this is something that interests them.
Yeah.
And then they find excuses to not do it. And these excuses seem reasonable to them. And you can kind of see how, if someone, you trust to know better, but they'll tell you something, like I said, the teachers, for example, or someone tell you, oh no, you're not talented. This is not your thing. You can't do this. This is definitely not going to be your, life's course and things like that. And sometimes just one sentence that someone drops like that, and that's it for the rest of the life. This person can go and just never do something that they actually really want to, but they know that they are not, they're not talented. I mean, why would I be doing this? I was told that I've got, I've got no talent in this particular field whatsoever, so I better leave it for, whoever's got the talent. Which is, in my opinion, I think if you are drawn to something, if you find things interesting, and it can be any kind of sport, it can be like sewing, it can be, I don't know, crochet, anything.
Yeah.
Art, music. If you feel that you're drawn to this, you can always take it up as a hobby, and then you don't know where it's going to take you. I'm an artist, and I also run art classes. And, I've had students that would come in, say, for example, kids, and they try things out. And then because they've been doing classes for a few years, they actually decide, yes, I actually want to do this my career, and doesn't have to be a fine art, it can be design, it can be architecture. There's so many things that are like interlinked with art and just creative way of thinking, of putting your thoughts down on the paper in the way of sketching. And it's all really, really connected. And I even had like an adult classes. I've had a student who was, I think she was about just over 70 years old when she came into the classes.
Wow.
And she loved it so much. And she, started creating lots of different paintings and drawings, giving them away to her family. And she started entering them into like different exhibitions, competitions, and she was earning enough money to completely cover all of her costs for the classes, for the materials, and even had some extra. So, that just shows that you're never too old, It's
Yeah. Oh
just,
my gosh, that's so cool to
yeah,
hear. That's awesome. I just have a huge smile on my face.
yeah.
It reminds me of, I work in education for my real job. And I just have to share a quick story real quick. I used to work
Mhm.
for a online school back in the day, back when those were first starting, and we had this older gal named Eunice, and she was in her 80s, and her husband had just died. She needed something to do, basically, and she had a bachelor's degree,
Mhm.
and she wanted to just, hey, I want to take classes online. I'm not able enough to go out, to a brick and mortar school to take classes and, do all that stuff. Can I take classes online? And she kind of became my project at that point, where I had to schedule out her classes online. I had to teach her how to use the class format online and that sort of stuff. And she was like just the best thing ever. It's just like one of those unexpected gifts that you get, where she was wonderful to work with because she really wanted to learn. And I guess that's where it starts. If you really want to learn, it starts there, and the rest takes care of itself. Like, if you really care, it'll happen. I guess so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think also a lot of people put really high expectations on themselves as well. So they
Right.
do give
Right.
things a go. And then they sort of expect, oh, I've been doing this for 3 weeks and I'm drawing as, I don't know, a youngster or something, And so this is like, oh, this is obviously, I'm not good at this. People going to laugh and, all sorts of things. And that's the thing. If this can be something that you do for yourself, or at least this is how it can start up. And then once, whatever that is, if it takes hold over and it's just going to develop, you won't be able to stop it. That's the thing. If
Right.
you keep practicing, it will happen. And a lot of the times, people, sort of try to do things, and sometimes, for example, like in my classes, it might take few layers to actually get enough richness in the paint, for instance, right? And so it's so common, especially with new people that just come into my classes, and they sort of feel like, oh, this is not turning out, this is all a disaster, this is not turning out. But the main reason is that you kind of have to have patience. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever that stage for that particular artwork is at, that looks perfect for what it is now. It's just it's not a
Mm.
finished product. So you cannot expect it to look like a finished product when you're just like a third way in, for example. So that I find that sort of stops a lot of people, and that leads to people having a lot of unfinished works as well.
Hmm.
They started off and they feel it's not going somewhere, it doesn't look right. The reason why they just didn't take it all the way through.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's yeah. People expect to be Rembrandt when they get their first lesson, and it's like, no, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's not even,
It's not that easy.
yeah, yeah, and it's not necessarily that, people sort of expect that they're going to be good. It's just that they are scared that they're going to be bad, you know?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and a lot of us, I mean, of course, it's a personal thing and everyone's different, but a lot of the times it's just that people are scared that they're just going to be so bad that they, decide it's not for them. Yeah.
And there's a thing that you touch on in at least one of your videos, I think when you were talking about how to, your thumbnail was like, I'm not talented, which was like, whatever. And then in the video you talk about how like, it definitely takes patience, and you don't just pick up a violin and immediately start playing the violin well. In fact, I'm sure anybody that picks up a violin for the first time sounds terrible.
Yeah.
So so one thing I find really cool about your channel is that you do have a lot of your art that's obviously takes a lot of skill, a lot of talent, some stuff that you've worked really hard on, a lot of your surrealist stuff and the pencil sketches and all of that. And I guess that could be intimidating to people, but because you're a teacher, you do a really good job of having tutorials for like really simple, little drawing projects. Because I find that a lot when I follow like an artistic channel, I'm always blown away by the stuff that they do. It doesn't really give me confidence that I can do that too, because they are immediately already great and they're already like they're painting like the new Schwanstein castle or something like that, and I'm like, well, that looks cool, I don't think I could do that. I'm like, show me how to draw a banana, and then you scroll down through your list of videos and you're like, here's how you draw a banana, like start here. And I just think that's really cool, because I think a lot of people get really intimidated when they see someone so talented. And that's another thing too, is that you are fairly talented, obviously, but you teach so well, and I don't think that's always common. I don't think extremely talented people are always great at instructing other people to be good, and that's something that your videos do so well. So I just wanted to point that out because I really enjoyed that. I mean, it's obvious that you're a teacher, but it's very apparent in these videos. And like Alex, I was kind of rifling through my drawers earlier looking for old pencils and sketchbooks. I'm like, I want to try to draw something. So it's very good.
Yeah, thank you. It's I think probably the reason is because I've been teaching for many years, mainly art classes and stuff like this. So now I've got my own little art school, and I teach my students small classes. I keep numbers small, so they can be a lot of one-to-one help as well. I think that's important too. Yeah, so I do give out a lot of instructions, and I do demonstrations and things like that. So a lot of the things that I do film, I probably have gone over them, a few times at least. Yeah, and I really do enjoy teaching as well, because it's kind of it's that whole process of passing on your knowledge, because a lot of the knowledge that I have gathered, it would be from, very different places. I've started my art education when I was in Russia. I was born in Moscow, and I did art school, there. I did not get to complete it fully because I had to move. My family moved to New Zealand, and I moved with them. And then I studied here as well. So first I did Bachelor's of Fine Arts, and then I did my postgraduate here as well in New Zealand, Auckland, University of Auckland. And I have sort of been exposed to many different ways of teaching styles as well. So for example, like in Russia, I did lots of different courses, besides the art school as well. And a lot of the things that are there are focused on the technique, at least when you're a student. You don't do abstract art. You don't do anything conceptual. You
Right.
don't, this is for when you become an artist. At the moment you're a student. So here is a vase and an apple, and this is what you need to draw the way it is, no fantasy, no nothing, just, you work on what you see. And in some ways, some people would say, this is so boring. It takes away from your personal style, but you really get the technique down, you
Yes.
really know how to look at the light and the shade and all the basics. Like, for example, for my exam, like just to show you the difference, for my exam to go into like art school in Russia, I had to sit an exam, I had to come in and sit an exam, and it was a 2-hour drawing exam. And then it was a 2-hour painting exam. And it was they just, I'd show up there, and there'd be a whole bunch of other students as well who obviously, all wanted to get in. And they would put up this still life in front of us. And there'd be, I don't know how many, maybe like 50 or, around 50 students in the class, all having those easels, all sitting there and frantically sketching that whatever they've put in front of you.
Wow.
And then you have to swap and you put watercolor paper on, and then you do the same thing in watercolor. So by the end of those hours, you had to produce two separate artworks. They had to be done very realistically, of course, in whatever style that you learned to do until then. And then they just put them all in the floor, and in like about, I think, 4 rows or so. And so the row on the bottom was like the worst one. So these people straight away don't get in. So they don't even know your name. They just, if you see that, you pretty much have failed. And if you failed your art exam, you failed everything else.
Oh my goodness.
Then,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
then if you're in the top row, then you are 100% getting in. And
Wow.
then the other 2 rows, which is like good or like somewhat good, then they see how many people have applied to, how many spaces can they offer to these people. So yeah, it's a very different way, so it's very nerve-wracking, and you're sitting there and you're drawing, and what if your, I don't know, fingers are sore? It doesn't matter. You just have to do it right then and there.
I'm sweating just thinking about that. Oh my gosh, that is nerve-wracking. Wow.
And that was the exam, yeah.
That was the exam that you went through.
Yeah.
Oh
that was in Russia, in Moscow. And then say when I came to New Zealand, it was very different. There wasn't so much interest in like how realistically you can sketch your objects, how well can you render and things like that. It was more of an interview, and what are your artist's models, and where are you heading, and what do you feel about this, and how, very different. And the teaching style as well was very different. We were very driven towards conceptual art and things like that,
What do you prefer? Do you have a preference of, I mean, they both have their, you obviously need to know the, the basics, as, like you learned in Russia, but I'm sure the New Zealand stuff has its own strengths too, right? Like, is there a preference that you have between the two teaching styles?
Well, you see, for example, what I got in Russia is I was taught, how to look at objects, how to sketch them down, how to, sort of create the 3-dimensional composition on your pretty much flat paper, with just using shadow and light. And that's what you do, with art like that. You did not really need to use and bring in any of your own creativity, it was all about the technique. Right. Whereas, for example, at least, where I was studying, and then in Auckland, when I was in New Zealand, it's very different. So in some situations when I wanted to create, when I wanted to try doing, like realistic portraiture and things like that, and then I was actually, people would question, well, why would you paint this? You can take a photograph instead, things like that. Like it was more about a concept than the skill. And in fact, skill was kind of this was also like, like I think early 2000s as well. And, it was like a big thing that painting is dead, you'd get all of these teachers, students going around saying painting is dead, there'll be no more painting.
I dealt with the same thing when I was in, I went to tech school for graphic design, but I did take some illustration classes, and I got told the same thing back in 2001, 2002, all that stuff. It's like, don't bother. And I'm like, but I want to bother. I like it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I think, like, my personal opinion is that I think it should still be offered, because
absolutely,
some people, and if there's no need to push people to do this, it's like, with Russia and New Zealand, it's like 2 completely opposite schools of, looking at art and teaching art. But there should be something in the middle where if someone wants to know how to place the shadows, if someone wants to know how to clean your brush after you've used oil paint, for example, like there were students, especially when I came back, to do my postgraduate, the people, they didn't know that you need to use terps to clean off oil paint off the brush, they thought that you could do it with water and soap. So some basic things like that, that are missing, and it sort of feels a little bit like there's something lacking. And yet if you're constantly just told what to do and there's no creativity, yes, you've got the skill, but then you're kind of like a I don't know, a drawing monkey, you're just copying the same thing over and over again. So it's like you sort of want to have a bit of both. That's my opinion,
Yes.
but it's I guess the way that I went. So
You bring up
yeah.
such a good point about the fundamentals of just artistry in general, with drawing, with painting, where my girlfriend and I, my girlfriend's niece, she is 14 years old. So she's asking, she's going through a lot of like stuff that she doesn't want to do. And she like math and, you know, that kind of stuff. And she has no interest in this at all. So we have to come up with creative ways to explain why it's important to her that she try at these subjects. They're ultimately brain exercises, like how people exercise their muscles with just jogging or walking or lifting weights. You're doing that with your brain, with math and with science and with stuff like that. It's the same. It works the same way with art, where they're just brain exercises. And so for teachers to say painting is dead, whatever, I think that's BS. Like, no, painting should never be dead because those techniques are brain exercises. They should teach you how to do certain things. They should teach you to think in a certain way and teach you to open your mind up to different things. So I'm 100% with you on that it should not be anything that, you know, is brushed aside lightly.
Yes, exactly. I think you definitely said it. And, you know, especially when people just delve into that sort of a world, you know, when they haven't done much painting or drawing, and then they come in and then they have a class on how to, for example, work on landscapes, you know,
Yeah.
how to look at trees and things. And then they tell me the next time, like, when I was driving, all I was looking is at trees, and they're so different to what
I
I
love
thought they
that.
were.
That's
You
so
know, it's
great.
like, yeah, it's same with sky. What color is the sky? Blue. That's what people tell you. It's very rarely blue. It's
No,
actually like all types of shades of gray with a bit
exactly.
of blue, a bit of pink, a bit of like there's so much yellow in there. So it's, you know, and you don't see this until you actually start to try and, you know, try and represent it in your work. And then you realize that, hang on, if I paint the whole thing blue, it actually looks just a bit too flat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right.
yeah, it definitely opens your mind up, and it, you know, and especially if you're doing it not just once, like you come to the class and you do this once, but if this is something that becomes part of your life, then it definitely changes the way you look at things, the way you see things. You start to see, I think, more than just one point as well, you know, in any situation.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's yeah,
Yeah, that's a really
yeah.
good point. And you brought up a good point about the colors too, because I watched today. Actually, I let my daughter. She's less than 2. We don't let her watch any TV or anything. But I was like, how harmless could it be to let her watch? You know, you draw a cat. And so we're sitting there, we're watching you draw this cat. And my wife is there too. We're all gathered around the TV. I'm like, I'm going to talk to this person later. It's going to be awesome. And so we're watching you draw this cat. And then at some point you pull out a color, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if this cat has that color. And then like a minute later, I'm like, she nailed it. That was what it needed. That was exactly what it needed. I had no idea that cat had maroon in its ear, and that's great. So yeah, it's kind of mind boggling to watch you or watch any artist do things and sculpt things in a way that you wouldn't really think it should work, and then it always turns out, well, not always, but it usually will turn out better than you might expect, given what goes into it. And it makes me kind of want to ask you, what are some of your artistic inspirations? Are there any painters with either modern or classical that you look up to or get a lot of inspiration from?
Um, for my work, I don't really it's mainly the things that are around me that sort of inspire me. Sometimes even things that are not connected to art, but maybe more connected to psychology, or, you know, things like that that actually inspire me for my work. But I really do love looking at, you know, other people's art as well. And there are just so many different artists, you know, for different things. And of course, I've got, you know, a whole bunch of, say, for example, Russian artists, you know,
Mm.
like, for example, Shilov, you know, he's like so amazing with portraiture, just the skill of painting, you know. Not only does he paint his portraits so well, he also chooses different subjects, and just through the face and through the face expression, you know, it just tells a whole story. So I find things like that really fascinating. Then there's like people like artists like Kuznetsov, and he was really into like Russian um, folk sort of tales and things like that. So a lot of his art is sort of inspired by that. And I was sort of I'd say I belong to the pop surrealism style of painting, or I don't know, art niche or whatever you want to call it. And of course, there are lots of pop surrealists whose work I find, absolutely amazing. Um, a lot of them sort of do work on the rather, sprints and things like that, but still really amazing. People like Natalie Shaw, for example. Just whatever I think she comes up with, just always looks so cool. So yeah, there are lots of lots of people. I don't want to be naming too many names because I know I'll probably forget to put
Right,
someone
right.
in, and then yeah, but yeah, there's lots of really interesting art out there.
You
So
spoke to that style that you the pop surrealism, and
hmm
in a lot of your work, I mean, to me, and this is just, I've not researched your work for a very long time, but just on the surface, there seems to be a lot of attention to a few things that jump out to me in a lot of your work, which are, number one, obviously the eyes are very catching. There's a lot of jewels typically, and furry animals tend to show up a lot. Are those things that are, fascinations for you, or things that you specifically just enjoy drawing, so you incorporate them into a lot of your work?
there are different. It's sort of like each type kind of belongs to its own little. Um, I wouldn't say a period because a lot of them are ongoing. So it's mainly, how would I say it? So I would have like a specific little niche where there are more like portraits, like
Hmm.
more creatures that remind us more of the human beings. They're not actually human beings. They are souls of human beings that sort of go on
Oh,
from
okay.
one lifetime to another lifetime, and they accumulate, different experiences. It can be knowledge, it can be, specific emotions. So they live through different um, times, and then they kind of carry it all with them as well. So each sort of painting would have its own little clues. So there's a lot of symbolism in my work, I
Hmm.
think, because of that. And I think another thing as well is that a lot of them, because they're so symbolic, I think people try and, when they try and look at them and they try and sort of decide what it is, everyone comes up with their own story. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times, I think it's based, those stories are based on their own life experiences,
Mm.
on their own way of, whatever they have gone through in their life, whatever they have seen previously, all of those things sort of plug in to help them create the story. And so one painting can have 10 different stories because 10 different people looked at it and told me what they thought it was about. And I find it really interesting the way how some people would focus on few details and some people would completely ignore them. Like they would never even notice those things.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of that, I think, psychological background as well to the way that the work can unravel itself, in the eyes of the viewer. So
That
yeah,
that kind of
it's
stuff fascinates me. I love that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's really interesting because um it's like interpreting lyrics of a song. The artist might have a certain intent and it might mean something to the person that wrote it, but to the person that listens, it's completely different. It could be anything to any number of people. So you've talked about your artistic inspirations. When you started your YouTube channel, did you have any YouTube channels that you looked toward that were like, I want to be like that person, or I want to do this with my channel? Was there anybody in mind that you had?
it's quite funny because I've never really set up to do like a YouTube channel. I know it sounds sort of a little bit strange, but Um, I started doing videos because I wanted to show a bit more of the process of my work. Because when was it? I think a couple of years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I had a person who showed up in my show. I had a show in London in UK, and this person really liked my art, but said that they didn't believe me that I painted my works. They thought I was printing them or something like that. I don't know,
What?
something really strange.
Wow. Like,
And I
it's almost
thought,
like a compliment, but not really.
yeah, it sort of felt weird because I mean, you can sort of see when you look closely that there are brush strokes. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I mean, everyone's got different, eyesight, and I mean, so it was kind of a little bit weird, and it made me think that maybe I should actually do videos where people can actually see my process from the beginning till the end. So I've done a couple of videos like that, and then I've sort of thought, because I sort of also teach, it will be quite good to do like an overview on, for example, some basic art materials and things like that. Just in case, for example, my students might decide to do some art at home and they might want to buy something, or something like that. So they might look into that. So I filmed one tutorial where it was like my first tutorial where I talked, and it was about graphite materials. And then my good friend from university time, Ariel, she just shared that video on, I think, one of the ASMR things. I can't remember what it was. It was Reddit, I think. It was on Reddit.
Oh, wow.
And I would have never even thought in a million years about, I mean, I've heard about
That's
ASMR.
so cool. I love it.
Yeah, but never in a million years would I thought that I would be getting into something like that, or that my voice is ASMR-ish, or it was just really it was all very new, so a lot of new discoveries even for myself that I've found out through having a YouTube channel.
Do you know Bob Ross and his work? And
Yes.
Yeah, Bob Ross is the same sort of deal, where he he started his PBS channel, or his his PBS show about just painting, and at a certain point he understood, I guess maybe somebody got in his ear or something like that and said like, hey, people are watching you not only for your painting process and to understand your process and how to paint and all that sort of stuff, but they're listening to you to relax, because you're such an easygoing guy, and it's so your voice is so calming. And he just kind of leaned into that and was like, okay, fine, if that's what people are watching for, then I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And sure enough, like, the guy has I'm subscribed to his he passed away in 95, but he still has an active Twitch channel that I'm subscribed to, that I religiously watch, because Bob Ross is the greatest. And you're kind of in the same category, where it's like, not only am I watching this to relax, but man, oh man, I'm learning a lot. So it's fantastic that you're kind of in the same vein. And I hope people listening to this catch on to your channel, because seriously, anybody watching this, like, please go check out Leila's channel, because it's amazing. Her work is amazing, but she's a great teacher. So please do that.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, and it's just one of those things. I think the next thing that happened was that it was pure unintentional ASMR channel that got in touch with me and said, "Is it okay if we share your video?" And I was like, "Why is this like ASMR? This is so strange. It's so strange."
Yeah, what was your reaction when you like? So that was pretty much it. Like, why would you do that? Like, it was just pure confusion. Like, why would you do? How is this a thing at all? Like, do you watch any other ASMR videos at all yourself, or no? Or
well, after all that, I started watching them.
Nice.
Yeah, the thing is, when I was, when I thought I might, when I was doing that first tutorial, I thought I might film some more as well, and I did want things to be more on the relaxing side than, sort of like. Because I thought, people would want to watch this, say, for example, they come home from work and they want to have a nice, sort of a time to unwind. They don't really want someone screaming to them from, the screen of their computer, "Pick up your pencil and draw now," It's sort of it's a bit too much. And also, I think it would be quite hard for me, just personally, to keep up with that kind of energy. So I thought that probably, just keeping it more, sort of more relaxing, but again, like not the ASMR type of a level relaxing, you know what I mean? So that was a big surprise. Yeah.
What do your students? I know that the YouTube channel was sort of a way to maybe facilitate some of the teachings, but do they have any opinion on the ASMR aspect of things?
I think some of my students quite like it, especially the younger, I think, population,
Yeah.
sort of teenagers. I think they quite like the ASMR factors just because it's apparently it's a big thing. It's everywhere now, and yeah, but I still, even when I do those videos, and I do say in the videos, that they are relaxing, and I hope you get to, enjoy them. They are still the main thing for me is to make them educational. That's still the main thing. That's why I have sort of almost like a little bit of a problem. I still don't know. I do put in sometimes ASMR, sometimes I put unintentional ASMR. But to me, I see them more as unintentional ASMR because they are relaxing, but they're not just done for the purpose of being relaxing to give people, I don't know, tingles or whatever it is that ASMR
Right.
thing is meant to be. It's more of a learning video, video to teach people specific techniques or process or something like this. And then if some people who don't want to follow but they get relaxation out of it, then it's even better. Then even more people are getting helped by whatever I'm doing, which is like, to me, it feels great. It's like getting two things with
That's why I make the
one
Bob.
sort of a
That's why I make the Bob Ross comparison, is because I learned so much from watching him, and I still have so many of his sayings, and Trav has heard so many of them. he's
Yeah.
all the happy accidents and all that sort of stuff. But no, if it's just the relaxing for the sake of relaxing, that has kind of a shorter shelf life, I think. I think that's wears out its welcome a little bit quicker. But if there's substance behind the video, and if there's substance behind the content, I think there's more to that people can dig into and be like, hey, I learned something from watching. As Bob Ross would say, the ASMR stuff is a happy accident. It just kind of happened. So
yeah, it definitely just happened. Yeah, at least for me.
It's
That's
very
how
it's
it was.
and so you're up to like 6,000 subscribers now. I remember way back in the day, like back in January or something like that, you had like less than 1,000, and now you're like this super popular gal.
First and foremost, I think I'm an artist, and then I also run my art classes. And now I've started doing this. I don't know where this is going to take me, but it's been quite interesting. And as I said, I found out a lot of things about myself. It's just, it's definitely, it'll be interesting to see what sort of comes from it. And yeah. And also, I think, these days with the viruses, with all the closures and things like that,
Yes.
I think there is something about sort of being able to expose my art, what I do and my teaching and things like that through the internet, through social media, YouTube, things like that, because it sort of seems like things are a little bit unstable, in our real life. So the computer life is perhaps that's something that's going to develop even more. I don't know, but things are changing. Who knows?
Absolutely. I think we better get used to this lifestyle, because I don't think it's going to be, especially us in the States over here. Trev, I don't know about you, but I'm I just started adapting to the webcam style, the Zoom style. I try to stay off of camera, but this past week I'm like, it really seems like this isn't going to change anytime soon. So I better hop on and get used to this while I can. And I really scared the heck out of my co-host here by appearing on camera out of nowhere.
I wasn't expecting it the other night. We were going to get on for a quick chat, and he just appeared on screen. I'm like, we've been podcasting for months, and I've never seen you. He could have been anybody. I had no idea. Another thing I wanted to bring up, though, before we close her down here, is that, obviously, a lot of your art is on paper or canvas or some physical medium, but the way you edit your videos is also very nicely done, because you know your stuff takes it takes some of them up to 6 days if you're drawing a graphite thing that I just watched earlier today, or they could be a watercolor thing that takes only a few minutes or less than an hour. So the way that you're able to compress everything that you want to do, like the beginning to end of the piece, and then also speed through certain parts but still leave in what's important and still keep your instructive points that you want to make in there as well. I think all of that's really well done. And I tried to go back to some of your early videos to be like, is this something that you got better at over time? But it seemed like you always kind of had a pretty good grasp on how to do all that stuff. So do you have like a background at all with anything video editing wise, or has this just sort of been learning as you go?
Oh my goodness. No, it's very, very new thing. As I've done my first, I think, video, I've got a video there from years ago, and my husband put it together. And I had no idea how to use anything. So it's just pretty much you see the learning process. I'm editing them on iMovie, and just because I have it on my computer.
Right.
It's it's definitely something very, very new. Well, at least it was, when I started doing them. Now I kind of, at least I know how to use iMovie now. So that's good. Yeah, it's no, I'm not very good with technology, I would say overall. I'm much more of a sort of a DIY person. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, because of your channel, especially because you're an artist.
Yeah, I sort of I'm just whatever it is, it'll be easier for me to probably learn how to, I don't know, knit, for example, than for me to, do something with, something technical, for example. But I mean, if you have to, you just do it. So if when I got the idea, okay, I need to film the process and I have to do something, well then, I'll just take it one step at a time.
When there's a will, there's a way. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, you don't expect things to be perfect, because if you put sort of a really high expectations, well, it has to be like, I don't know, those, nature shows that you see on TV or something like this, then of course you wouldn't even come close to the camera. But if you think, well, I'll do it the way it is, like, even if it's like a 2-minute video. I think one of the first ones that I did a drawing there is like really short. It's just a couple of minutes. But I thought, then I'd do this, then at least I know how to do this,
Yeah.
And
that's such a good point about people put their standards against like David Attenborough's, TV series on BBC, and it's like, people should not be doing that, because that stuff is painstakingly put together over a series of months and months, and so much work goes into that. And they're using, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and stuff like that. It's like, please do not measure yourself against Planet Earth or Blue. What's the other one called? The ocean one. There's life in the undergrowth.
The Blue Planet, yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff is brilliantly done, but oh my goodness, like if that's your standard, like you should back off.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, you have to realize that all of these professionals that are there, they weren't just like a 3-month-old and knowing how to edit these perfect videos and film them.
Right.
They went through a learning process. They've studied, and their first one was always, wasn't that good. At least not as good as the ones that they're producing now. There's a saying, there's a Russian saying, and it says that, whenever you're making pancakes, your first pancake is always a lump. And it sort of naturally happens, because your like skillet or whatever you're doing is not heated up properly, or, your batter is not mixed in properly. So that you should have that first lump in whatever you're learning to do, because without that lump, you won't get the good ones coming afterwards,
I remember my first pancake. It was literally a lump, and the butter did not melt entirely, and it was. It's funny you bring that up. I remember that I was living by myself for the first time, and I just took the butter out of the fridge, and it was just a lump of butter with flour and egg around it, and It's pretty bad. You don't come out of the womb knowing how to make pancakes. That's for dang sure.
Yeah, that's it. So you have to learn. So whatever you're doing, the first one, you have to expect it to be a lump.
Yes.
So, once you know it's going to be a lump, at least you're not scared. Okay, that's a lump. That's right. So the next one is going to be a bit of a better lump.
I mean, I still ate it.
Better
so
lump,
yeah. It was a better lump the second time. Yeah.
For sure. So in addition to your YouTube channel, you have a website, right, where people can find like some of your work or maybe how to contact you if they wanted to be a student?
Yes, it's leilaatayaartist.com. I also have a Patreon as well account. So, if someone wants to see some extra videos or something like this, then people can find me there as well. And there are different things like people can request videos and, if they need help with something specific, then I can do, one-to-one things with them as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and most of the things, that if someone just wants to start to see things, then they can just check the YouTube channel out.
Very
I guess.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that about does it. Alex, do you have any more questions? You've been a fantastic guest, by the way. Thank you so much.
Oh man, you've been.
Thank you guys for having me.
You've
it's
been
fun.
You've been
Thank
wonderful.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to have a chat. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's been another Drunk Friend podcast. As always, you can reach out to us with questions or comments at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com. We might even read it out here on the show. You never know. If you want to hear more podcasts from our crew, you can check out polykill.com and poke around.
And if you got nothing to say in email, don't worry about it. You can still contribute to the podcast by rating and reviewing it wherever you listen. It helps us out a lot, and it only takes a second.
That's right. You can find us all on social media. I'm on Twitter at Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNES Drunk. And Leila, I guess, other than the Patreon and the YouTube and the website, do you have any other social media platforms you'd push?
I am on Instagram as well.
Okay, so is your Instagram like an artist thing, or is it a personal thing, or?
Oh yeah. It's the artist thing. Yeah, it's Leila Ataya artist, I think.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It just shows how much attention I pay to all those things.
Fair enough.
And that music you heard at the beginning of the podcast and right here at the end was composed by our friend Kulor, and the theme song is called Electric Starbound, so you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page. And if our logo has you thirsty, you can thank Josh Leslie for that.
That's all right. Be sure to catch us all on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers.